On this episode of the Procedurally Generated Show, Tony is flying solo, so he's got a few questions to ask you. Well, howdy everybody. Welcome to the Procedurally Generated Show. I'm your host, Tony, and I'm by myself this week. Shannon's still off taking care of his family. Ethan is doing some video game thing for charity, so he's still out this week. He'll be back next week, so that means I'm by myself. That's my witty intro. I don't have much for you. So, what have I been playing this week? The same things I've been playing this week, or for the last few weeks. Warframe, Smash Brothers, Brawlhalla. More Smash Brothers than Brawlhalla this week, surprisingly. So yeah, I don't have a ton of stuff to talk about in that. We've unlocked all the characters in Smash Brothers. Been playing that every night. I'm trying to decide if I want to pick up the Nintendo Switch Online service to actually play some people online. I don't know if I do yet or not. Some more NES games came out for that this month. I think Zelda 2 and I don't remember what the other one was. But yeah, aside from playing things like Smash Brothers or Splatoon online, there's not a whole lot of a reason for me to pick that up yet. So we'll wait and see. If anybody wants to play online, let me know. And if so, I'll go ahead and pick it up. But other than that, I don't know that I probably will. But that's really it. That's all I've been playing this week. Nothing too interesting or new to go over with that. So I thought I'd just go over a couple of quick news stories here that I found online this week. And then I'm going to get to something I hope you guys will like a little bit. Something we haven't done in a while. So the first news story, though, is that Smash Brothers, previously mentioned, is selling exceptionally well, especially over in Japan right now. The game is currently sitting at 2.5 million copies sold. And the game's only been out for 5 weeks. It's crazy. Not unexpected, really. I mean, Smash Brothers is one of the biggest selling games that the Nintendo systems have had. It's always been up there in the top probably 5 or 6 games on every system since the series started. But what is a little bit surprising is that it has already surpassed the sales of the 3DS version of the game when it released in Japan. So it was sitting at like 2.3 million, I think, sold. I don't have the numbers for both versions of Smash Brothers 4 combined, so I can't tell you how it's doing. And that is just DS sales. So, even here in the States, it's doing really well. I think it is over 5 million, over maybe 6 million at this point altogether. So it's doing very, very well. A couple of game releases that I thought were interesting that are coming up this week. Sometime, I think on Thursday, Dragon's Lair 1 and 2, the Dragon's Lair trilogy will be out on Switch. If you've never played these games, they originally came out in the arcades back in the 80s, and I spent way too much of my parents' money on these games. They really were, if you don't know anything about them, they are QuickTime events, the game. That's really what it is. It was a hand-drawn art style, looked very much like a cartoon. The graphics still hold up really well to this day. But in the game, you played as a knight. His name was Dirk, and you were trying to save Princess Daphne. And in order to do that, you had to dodge obstacles like monsters that would pop up out of moats, or swinging ropes, giant boulders that would roll back and forth on these ramps and things like that. And to do that, it was just QuickTime events. QuickTime event after QuickTime event after QuickTime event. It was really designed to take your quarters, and it did a very good job of it. The timing was super unforgiving, I remember back then. I think it's gotten a little easier since then. But originally, I can remember back in the late 80s, the early 90s, playing that game in the arcades and being incredibly frustrated at how unforgiving the timing was. But it's one of those types of games that I think everybody needs to play at some point. And that game is coming out this week. It's actually, there's 3 games in the package, Dragon's Lair 1 and 2, and then the follow-up to those games, which was Space Ace, which was not a Dragon's Lair game, but those games will be out on the Switch this week. You can see some of the footage here that's playing. The games look really, really good. Like, it looks like an 80s cartoon. You know, people talk about now how games are getting closer and closer to looking like you're just playing through like Pixar movies. That's the sort of pinnacle that people use for the animation styles today. But that really was, you were playing through a cartoon, and because of that, those visuals hold up really well to this day. And then earlier this week, Nintendo announced that the next games for Kirby and Yoshi will both be releasing in March. Yoshi's Crafted World, which is coming to the Switch. They've shown off a little bit at the last couple of E3s, and it finally has a release date. The game will be out on March 29th. This is the next Yoshi game. It looks very much... it's similar to that Yoshi's Woolly World style, except now that they're going sort of full 3D instead of that... just the straight yarn look that Yoshi had. He looks much, I don't want to say more realistic, but the visuals have been updated significantly from the Yoshi's Woolly World games. It still looks like that, it's got that crafty art style where everything looks like it's made from real world objects. It's something I've been excited about since they first showed it off, and they haven't really showed off a bunch of it. There have been a couple, quick segments with Treehouse at the last couple of E3s where they've played a little bit of the game, but we still don't know a ton about it. So I'm very excited to get my hands on that and seeing what that game is. And then the other game that is coming out, one that I played a ton back on the Wii, it is Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn. This is a port of Kirby's Epic Yarn, which originally was released on the Wii. It is coming to the 3DS, and that game will be out a few weeks earlier on March 8th. It includes everything from the original game, as well as a few new things, especially some new ravel abilities which Kirby has. And these include things like knitting needles, which will allow Kirby to attack by knitting a giant ball of yarn that will then crush enemies on the screen. One called a wire, which will make a sword that Kirby can swing. Another one called Button, where you create bombs using buttons that I'm guessing you'll throw around the screen. And then a couple others, Nylon, which will summon wind that will let Kirby jump really high. Another one that will create a yo-yo out of a bobbin that he can use to hit things that are very far away. And then a pin cushion, which is just like a ranged attack that lets Kirby throw pins at different things. That was a game that I thought was pretty easy as far as Kirby games go. They've always been, they've always leaned a little bit more towards the easy side of the difficulty range. But I think this one was even easier. I don't remember having a ton of trouble. Because of that, Nintendo has also decided to add a new difficulty mode that they're calling Devilish Mode, which will also add a new enemy type called the Devil type that will also have a health bar, which is something enemies didn't really have in Kirby's Epic Yarn. Now you'll have these enemies that will take more than just a single hit to be able to take out. And they're also including amiibo support in the game in the form of hats. So Kirby will have different kinds of hats that he can wear based on different amiibo that you scan. That's it for the news. This is going to be a very different type of show. But I wanted to do something a little fun this week. Since I'm by myself, I figured what better way than to bring back something we haven't done in a while. Something that I've wanted to do for a while, but haven't really thought of a way to bring it back. And I just figured, I'm by myself this week, so let's have a little bit of fun. So I am bringing back the question block for 1 week. Unless people decide they really like it, then we'll decide on whether or not we would want to do something permanent. So this week I'm going to ask you 5 questions. We don't have a prize, so this is just for fun. I wish I had something to give you guys, but at the moment we're out of prizes. So this is just going to be for fun. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Send me your answers. You can send them to me on Twitter. You can post them in our Facebook group, or you can email them to tmiller@procgent.com. That's tmiller@procgent.com. So get me those answers before next Friday, and we'll go over them next week, and I'll announce who answered the most questions correctly. So here we go. Question 1. The original Super Smash Bros. Game had 12 playable characters. Everybody remembers the original 8, but can you name the 4 additional characters who could be unlocked while playing through the game? And for those people that don't know, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, the 8 characters that you start with in that game are the same 8 characters that were available in the original Super Smash Bros. Game. Question 2. One of the locations you explore in the original Silent Hill game is a school. What movie starring a former governor of California was that school based on? Question 3. What truly terrifying message does Diablo speak after being released in the first Diablo game? Question 4. This is a true or false question. Princess Peach and Cortana are voiced by the same person. True or false? And then question 5. What other game series was the music for the Waterworld theme in Super Mario Bros. 3 based on? So there you go. There are your 5 questions. Send your answers to those questions to me either through Twitter, through our Facebook group, or by sending them to me through email, and we'll go over the answers on next week's show. And then now it's time for everybody's favorite segment, listener feedback, where we answer your questions. I have a couple of questions this week. The first one comes from Lang via Facebook, who has a question, but also is giving us some info on an upcoming event here in the Tulsa area. He says, so there's a new gaming convention coming to Tulsa, Name Your Game Expo, set for the first weekend of October. You can actually find out more information on that event by going to nygexpo.com or by looking up the Name Your Game Expo on Facebook. Would we be interested in getting a table there? Yeah, I mean, that's something that's actually come up a couple of times this week from a couple of different people. We haven't decided yet if that's something we'd really want to do, but we're looking into it. It may be something possible, Lang. So let me know what you think would be interested. We've got a couple of ideas that we're floating around right now should we decide to get a table. I'm definitely going to go to the show even if I don't have a table there. Just because I'm very interested in another gaming convention here in the Tulsa area. Since OVGE has been gone for a couple years now, looking for something that can replace that on the schedule every year. So definitely something we're looking into. We don't have any concrete plans at the moment, so we'll see. And then our last one comes from Cole via Facebook, and he wants to know, what's the best speed run we caught from GDQ this week? Ethan's been there. I'm a little bit jealous of him. But he's been watching a number of those events, or those runs, live in person this week. I've watched a bunch on replay through YouTube. There's a couple that he's mentioned to me that I've missed and I haven't had a chance to watch yet, like Final Fantasy IV run that he said I needed to watch. And then there was a Luigi's Mansion run that I haven't watched yet, and I need to go and watch that one because I always watch Luigi's Mansion speedruns. But a couple that I watched this week that I really enjoyed were the Splatoon 2 Octo expansion run, where they finished the Octo expansion in a little over an hour. I watched a Crash Bandicoot run that was really good. And I think my favorite, though, that I watched was a Bloodstained Curse of the Moon run, where they finished the game in just over 20 minutes, and that was incredible to watch. I loved that game. I thought it was a really great sort of throwback to Castlevania, and I actually saw a bunch of things that I had never seen about that game before, ways that people were breaking the game by using a couple characters' abilities back to back, where like one character would freeze an enemy, and then if you transformed into a bat and then transformed back into human form while you were touching the frozen enemy, it would drop you through the level and would allow them to to basically skip huge chunks of the game. So that was interesting to watch. I think that was probably my favorite. And then there's still a few others that I need to go back and watch because I haven't seen them yet, like the Luigi's Mansion run. There's a couple of Castlevania runs that I want to go and watch, and then a Trauma Center run that I think would be really interesting to watch because I'm not sure how you speedrun that game aside from just doing really well at the surgeries. So very, very interested in seeing that run. But that's going to be it. Before we go, we just got a message in from Shannon, and he wanted to give everybody a little bit of an update about what's been going on with him while he's been out taking care of his family and just what he's been playing the last couple of weeks.
Hello everyone, this is Shannon. I just wanted to send a quick update on how things are going out here in Tennessee using this very cool SpeakPipe app on the procedurally generated website. So first and foremost, Callie Marie Reifenberg, my daughter, was born on December 28th, 2018, and she has taken this house over with force. As new babies go, she is up every 2 to 3 hours to eat and need a new diaper and need some attention, and it doesn't go very well for sleeping, let alone trying to plan a podcast recording around that. So I hope you, the listeners, will excuse my absence from the show these past couple weeks. She is growing beautifully and doing well, and so is my wife. They are all healthy, happy, and everything is good here at home. As far as video games go, I am still just working my way through Dragon Quest XI, especially holding a new infant loaf of bread sized human. I am enjoying her sitting in my arms while I work out the problems to save the world. So that's pretty much it for me. Hope everything is going well, and I look forward to being back on the show soon.
So there you go. Ethan will be back next week. Shannon will be back soon after that, and we'll be back to regular shows. So podcast at procegent.com. That's procegent.com. You can send us a voicemail if you want by clicking on the voicemail link on the right side of the website. You can send us voicemails up to 90 seconds in length, and we'll play those on future episodes of the show and respond to the questions that you have. If you like what we do here, you can now support us on Patreon, patreon.com/pgint. Patreon supporters will get a video version of the podcast a day early. These will normally go out on Tuesdays. Patreon supporters will get them on Monday. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/progenint. Check out our YouTube channel that we've got and see the content we've got going on up there. And then we still do have the Facebook group where you can interact with us on a daily basis as well.